Stagflation is already here. And before you click away thinking this is just another doom and gloom economic prediction video, let me be very clear about something. I'm not going to tell you that stagflation is coming. I'm going to show you, with actual data, that it is already happening right now, hidden beneath the surface of what looks like a healthy American economy. And then I am going to show you something even more alarming. Every single condition required for the worst financial reset in modern history is already in place. We are not waiting for the storm. We are standing in it. The only question left is what triggers the flood. Let me paint you a picture. Open up any major financial news outlet today, and the headlines sound almost cheerful. The S&P 500 is still trading near record highs. Unemployment numbers are historically low. GDP is still technically growing. The official story is that the American economy, despite a few bumps, remains fundamentally strong. And if you only looked at those three numbers, you might actually believe that. But here is the problem. Those numbers are doing something very specific. They are hiding something. And what they are hiding is so significant that when it finally becomes impossible to conceal, the consequences will be unlike anything most living Americans have ever experienced. So let us start by defining our terms, because stagflation is one of those words that gets thrown around a lot without people really understanding what makes it so dangerous. Stagflation is not just inflation. Inflation alone is manageable. Central banks have tools for that. Stagflation is not just slow growth either. Slow growth alone is unpleasant but survivable. Stagflation is the deadly combination of both happening simultaneously. Prices rising while the economy stagnates. It is dangerous precisely because the tools used to fight one problem make the other one worse. Raise interest rates to fight inflation, and you crush economic growth even further. Cut rates to stimulate the economy, and inflation accelerates. You are trapped. And right now, every single component of that trap is already snapping shut around the United States economy. Let us start with inflation, because this is the part of the story that should make you angry. The Federal Reserve has a 2% inflation target. That is the number they have told us for years represents healthy, stable price growth. Now I want you to remember that number, 2%, because right now, as of early 2026, CPI inflation is sitting around 3 to 3.5%. Core inflation, which strips out food and energy to show the underlying trend, is still above 3%. That means we are 50% above the Fed's own target. And this is after they raised interest rates aggressively for over 2 years. This is after all that pain for businesses and homebuyers and borrowers. Inflation did not come down to where it needed to be. It just slowed down and then got stuck. This is not a temporary blip. This is structural inflation. And the reasons behind it are not going away. Housing costs remain brutally elevated. Services inflation, which is everything from healthcare to insurance to restaurant meals, has proven incredibly sticky. Energy prices remain volatile. And here is the one almost nobody is talking about: the restructuring of global supply chains. For decades, American companies outsourced manufacturing to cheap labor markets. That was disinflationary. It kept prices down. Now, between tariffs and geopolitical tensions and the push to reshore manufacturing, that era is ending. Supply chains are being rebuilt, and rebuilding costs money. That cost gets passed to consumers. Inflation is not going back to 2% quietly. The structural forces that are holding it up are deeply embedded. Now here is where the stagflation thesis really starts to crystallize, because while inflation remains stuck above target, growth is quietly falling apart in ways the headline numbers simply do not capture. The key phrase you need to understand is sectoral concentration. The GDP numbers still look acceptable because a small number of sectors are growing explosively. Artificial intelligence infrastructure, defense spending, and to some extent, essential consumer categories like food production. Remove those sectors from the equation, and what you find underneath is not a strong economy. It is an economy in quiet recession. Manufacturing has been in contraction for an extended period. The ISM Manufacturing Index, which is one of the most reliable leading indicators we have, has been reading below 50 for much of the time since 2023. A reading below 50 means the manufacturing sector is shrinking, not slowing, shrinking. Machinery, construction equipment, transportation equipment, consumer durable goods, these are not niche corners of the economy. These are the backbone of industrial America, and they are contracting while the stock market celebrates AI valuations. Commercial real estate is another time bomb that has been ticking in slow motion. Here are some numbers that should make anyone paying attention very uncomfortable. Approximately $875 billion in commercial real estate loans are set to mature in 2026. That is this year. These loans need to be refinanced at interest rates dramatically higher than when they were originally written. At the same time, office vacancy rates are sitting near record highs because remote work fundamentally and permanently changed how companies use office space. The delinquency rate on office commercial mortgage-backed securities has exceeded 12%. Regional banks and commercial lenders hold enormous exposure to this sector. When those loans come due and cannot be refinanced at viable rates, we could see a cascading series of failures that make the 2008 regional bank stress look like a warm-up act. And then there is the American consumer. For decades, consumer spending has been the engine driving roughly 70% of U.S. economic activity. But that engine is showing serious cracks. Credit card balances in the United States have crossed $1 trillion. That is a record. Delinquency rates are rising. The pandemic-era savings that gave consumers a cushion have been almost entirely depleted. And because interest rates are elevated, the cost of carrying all that debt has exploded. People are spending, but they are spending money they do not have on credit that is getting more expensive every month. That is not economic strength. That is economic desperation being mistaken for resilience. Now I want to talk about the labor market, because this is where the stagflation story gets genuinely unsettling for the future. On paper, unemployment looks fine, but underneath the headline number, something structural is happening that has never quite happened before in this way. Artificial intelligence is eating the entry level of the labor market. Junior analysts, basic coding positions, customer service roles, administrative functions. These are the positions where every previous generation of workers entered the workforce, learned the fundamentals, built expertise, and eventually became the senior talent that runs organizations. Those jobs are being automated at an accelerating pace. Goldman Sachs estimated that AI could affect up to 300 million jobs globally. McKinsey research suggests that 60 to 70% of current work activities could eventually be automated or significantly altered by AI systems. Here is the insidious part of this process. Companies feel smarter and more efficient today because they are replacing cheap labor with AI tools. Their margins look better temporarily, but they are destroying their own talent pipeline. The people who would have been tomorrow's managers, innovators, and leaders never get the foundational training that entry-level work provides. This is not a problem you see on a quarterly earnings report. It is a problem you discover 5 years from now when there is no one with the skills to lead the next generation of business growth. We are trading long-term human capital formation for short-term efficiency gains. And in an economy already strained by inflation and debt, this makes the labor market more fragile than the unemployment rate suggests. But here is the layer of this story that most financial commentators are completely missing. The two sectors currently preventing the GDP numbers from screaming recession are themselves built on foundations that could crack. And when they do, the hidden recession underneath will become impossible to ignore. Let us start with artificial intelligence. The technology is real. I want to be very clear about that. AI is genuinely transformative in ways we are still only beginning to understand. But the investment cycle around AI right now has all the hallmarks of a classic speculative bubble. Microsoft has announced plans to spend over $80 billion on AI infrastructure in 2025 alone. Amazon is investing tens of billions annually. Projections for total global AI infrastructure spending over the coming years exceed $1 trillion. These are extraordinary numbers. And they are justified by one core assumption: that AI will eventually generate massive revenues that make these investments worthwhile. The problem is that right now, many leading AI companies are operating at a loss. The computing costs alone are staggering. And much of the investment flowing through this sector is circular. Major tech companies invest in AI startups and semiconductor firms, and then those same startups and semiconductor firms sell products back to the major tech companies. The sector is, to a significant degree, funding its own growth metrics. History has a very clear lesson about this pattern. In the late 1920s, new technologies like automobiles, electricity, radio, and aviation were genuinely transforming the American economy. Investors were right that these technologies were revolutionary. But stock prices began pricing in future profits decades ahead of when those profits would actually materialize. The result was 1929. The technology was real. The speculation was not grounded in present reality. Then in the late 1990s, the internet was clearly going to change everything, and it did. But in the meantime, companies with no revenue and no profits achieved astronomical valuations simply by putting .com in their name. The Nasdaq rose over 400% in 5 years. When expectations collided with reality, it lost nearly 80% of its value. The internet survived. Most of the companies did not. Right now, companies are adding AI to their business descriptions the same way companies added .com in 1999. The underlying technology will survive whatever correction comes. But if the investment cycle slows, if the revenue expectations fail to materialize fast enough, the consequences will ripple through financial markets, semiconductor supply chains, technology employment, and global capital flows in ways that would strip away the only sector currently making the economy look healthy. The second pillar is defense spending. Geopolitical tensions have driven explosive demand for military equipment, weapon systems, and defense technology. Defense contractors are reporting strong revenues. And yes, this spending does show up in GDP calculations. But defense spending is not a sign of economic health. It is a sign of global instability. It reflects a world becoming more dangerous, not more prosperous. And it is not the kind of economic activity that builds long-term productivity, raises living standards, or creates the foundation for sustainable growth. So let me now put all of this together, because I want you to see the full picture of what is converging right now simultaneously in the same economy at the same moment in history. You have inflation that is structurally stuck above the Federal Reserve's target with no clear path back to 2% without causing significant economic damage. You have a manufacturing sector in prolonged contraction. You have a commercial real estate crisis with nearly $900 billion in loan maturities hitting in 2026, refinancing into a high-rate environment against a backdrop of record-high vacancy rates. You have an American consumer buried under record credit card debt with depleted savings and rising delinquency rates. You have a labor market that looks stable on the surface, but is being quietly hollowed out by AI displacement at the entry level, threatening the entire human capital formation pipeline. You have public debt exceeding $38.5 trillion, with interest payments consuming an ever larger share of federal revenue, leaving almost no fiscal room to respond to a crisis. You have a Federal Reserve that cannot cut rates aggressively because inflation is still running hot, but also cannot keep rates high indefinitely because the debt burden and economic stress are becoming unsustainable. And you have two growth pillars, AI investment and defense spending, holding up the headline numbers, one of which shows all the characteristics of a historical speculative bubble. This is not a list of potential future risks. This is a description of where things stand today. Every single element of this is already present. The conditions for stagflation are not forming, they are formed. And beyond stagflation, the conditions for something far more serious are converging in a way that no single policy tool can address. Here is what makes this moment historically unique and genuinely frightening. In previous economic crises, governments and central banks had room to respond. In 2008, the Federal Reserve could slash rates to zero, and the government could run massive deficits to stimulate the economy because debt levels, while significant, were not yet existential constraints. In 2020, they did the same thing on an even larger scale, but each of those interventions was borrowed against the future. And the future is now. With debt at $38 trillion and climbing, with interest payments already consuming a massive portion of federal revenue, with inflation preventing the Fed from returning to zero rates, the traditional toolkit is either unavailable or insufficient. The next crisis arrives with far less ammunition in the bunker than any previous crisis in living memory. And here is the thing about triggers. The most catastrophic financial events in history rarely announce themselves. The 2008 crisis did not begin with a public declaration that mortgage-backed securities were worthless. It began with a relatively small number of loan defaults in the subprime housing market that nobody thought could cascade the way they did. The 1929 crash did not begin with an obvious signal. It began with a few days of selling that then became unstoppable. The trigger is almost never the thing you are watching. It is the unexpected event that collides with an already fragile system and sets off a chain reaction. Right now, this system is fragile in ways that are not visible in the headline numbers. The commercial real estate wave of 2026 maturities could be a trigger. A faster than expected slowdown in AI investment could be a trigger. A geopolitical shock that disrupts already vulnerable supply chains could be a trigger. A credit market seizure driven by rising consumer delinquencies could be a trigger. An unexpected acceleration in inflation that forces the Fed to raise rates further, pushing the commercial real estate market over the edge and tipping regional banks into crisis, that sequence alone could be enough. We do not need all of these things to happen. We only need one of them to hit a system that is already stretched to its limits, and the interconnected nature of modern financial markets will do the rest. Because that is how financial resets work. They do not happen in isolation. They happen when multiple vulnerabilities align, and a single event provides the spark. And today, in March of 2026, the vulnerabilities have aligned, the fuel is laid. What we are waiting for, what nobody can predict with certainty, is the match. I want to be honest with you about what this means practically. This is not a prediction that everything collapses tomorrow morning. Economic systems can sustain imbalances far longer than logic suggests they should. The people running these institutions are not incompetent, and they will do everything in their power to manage the situation. But the longer an imbalance is sustained, the more pressure builds behind it, and the more violent the eventual correction tends to be. The question is never whether the imbalance resolves. It always does. The question is how, and at what cost to ordinary people who are not positioned for what comes next. What comes next in a genuine stagflationary reset is not pretty. It means assets that people have counted on as stores of value lose purchasing power. It means debt that seemed manageable becomes crushing. It means employment disruption that is not a temporary recession dip, but a structural reorganization of the labor market. It means government services under pressure as tax revenues fall and borrowing costs rise simultaneously. And It means that the gap between people who understand what is happening and are positioned accordingly and people who trust the official narrative until it is too late becomes enormous. The official narrative today sounds almost identical to the official narrative in the late 1920s, when every indicator of speculative excess was explained away. It sounds like the official narrative in 1999, when every warning about dot-com valuations was dismissed as failure to understand the new paradigm. The new paradigm argument never ages well. Every generation discovers this eventually, usually at considerable personal cost. Stagflation is not on its way. It is not a distant risk to be monitored. It is the present condition of the American economy, draped in the temporary clothing of AI hype and defense spending, invisible to anyone who only reads the headlines, but increasingly obvious to anyone willing to look at the full picture simultaneously. The hidden recession is not so hidden anymore if you know where to look. The debt is not theoretical. The inflation is not transitory. The commercial real estate crisis is not hypothetical. The consumer stress is not an outlier. The AI bubble dynamics are not unfamiliar if you have studied history. Everything is already here, and somewhere the trigger is waiting. The only remaining question, the one that will define the financial lives of millions of Americans, is whether you see it before it goes off or after. If this video gave you a new way of understanding what is actually happening in this economy right now, share it with someone who needs to hear it. The most powerful thing you can do right now is understand the moment you're living in clearly and without illusion. Drop a comment below telling me which of these converging factors you think is most likely to be the trigger. And stay tuned, because the next video is going to talk specifically about what historically has happened to different asset classes during stagflationary periods, and what that history might mean for decisions people need to be making right now. You do not want to miss that one.